don't always think about where our plants go when we're done with them, but a plant you toss today could become someone else's weed problem tomorrow. I read a headline recently that genuinely surprised me. Pretty but deadly. Popular pot plant sparks urgent weed warning in Queensland. It was about Syngonium podophyllum, one of the most common indoor trailing plants. This plant right here. But in Queensland, it's now considered an invasive weed. Not because of its seeds, not because it snuck out of someone's compost bin. It spread because people dumped garden clippings or cuttings outside, thinking they'd just break down. But this plant didn't break down. It takes root, it grows, and now it's out of control, at least in Queensland. But could be many other places as well. Why houseplants become a problem outdoors? Most of our favorite indoor plants are not native to Australia. They come from the tropics, South America, Southeast Asia, Africa, places like that. Plants like devil's ivy, Syngonium, triscantias, rubber trees, umbrella trees, so many plants. They evolved to survive tough conditions where they're from. They spread quickly and they regrow from almost nothing. Indoors, that makes them a perfect low-maintenance plants. But outside, they can become pests. Once they escape, they smother native plants, they take over the light and water resources, they prevent native species from regenerating, and they disrupt the balance of entire ecosystems in our country. These plants really don't offer much to local wildlife. Our birds, bees, insects, and fungi evolved with native species. When we lose those native plants to imported ones, the whole ecosystem suffers. And some houseplants damage structures too. Umbrella trees are notorious for blocking pipes. Triscantia form dense mats that trigger rashes. Rubber plants send roots under pathways. They weren't made for our gardens, but once they're in, they're hard to remove. So how do they get into our gardens anyway? Here's how that happens. You repot a plant and you dump the root ball over the fence. You prune your pothos and flick the trimmings into a green corner. Or you put a dying plant on the compost heap thinking it'll rot away. But some plants don't rot, they root, especially if they have a node and a bit of moisture. That's all it takes. Syngonium podophyllum is a classic case. It doesn't spread by seed, it spreads by cuttings. One node on soil is enough to start a new vine. Queensland councils are now warning the public because it's showing up in bushland. And once it's in the wild, it grows fast and smothers native understory plants. This isn't a rare occurrence. It's happening more often than people realize. So let's talk a bit about what happens when you throw your plant away in the bin. This entirely depends on your local council. In my local council area, we have two relevant household bins. The red bin, which is the general waste, and this is what goes straight to landfill, and the green bin, which is the food and garden waste. And this forms part of the FOGO, or the Food Organic and Garden Organic program, and stuff in that bin gets composted. Green bin waste in my local council is taken to an industrial composting facility. And here's what happens there. All the contents of the green bin are shredded. The material is kept in very hot, oxygen-rich chambers for 2 weeks and then moved to long rows and turned for a few weeks. This whole process takes about 6 weeks. It reaches very high temperatures to kill off any pathogens, any bugs, and it breaks down the tough plant material. This magical compost is then used on farms, in gardens, and in public landscaping throughout Victoria. So in my area, you can safely put entire plants in the green bin, even if they're not fully dead. The composting process is strong enough to break them down. I think that's what they're saying anyway. I could be wrong. If you know more about this process, please let me know in the comments. But having said that, not all local councils have a process as rigorous as mine. Some only mulch the garden waste, some compost at lower temperatures or shorter time frames. That means parts of a tough plant like a triscantia could survive and end up where it shouldn't. That's why it's so important to find out what your local council does. Before you toss a plant, check if your green bin leads to compost, mulch, or landfill. How to safely dispose of houseplants. If you want to make extra sure a plant won't come back, here are 4 ways to kill it before tossing it. Especially helpful if your council's composting process isn't as strong as mine. Number 1, the black bag method, also called solarization. Put the plant in a black plastic bag, seal it tight, leave it in full sun for 2 to 4 weeks. The heat and darkness break it down completely. The deep freeze. Bag up the plant or cuttings. Freeze for at least 3 days. This kills the cells. Once thawed, it can go in the red or green bin depending on what happens in your area. Number 3, total dehydration. Leave the plant on concrete or in a tray in the sun until it's brown and brittle. Once it's completely dry, it can safely go in the green bin. 4, boiling water. Pour boiling water over the roots and the stems, and this kills them instantly. Let the plant cool and then you can bin it. In my area, I think these steps are optional. The composting system here is pretty effective, but using these methods does offer extra peace of mind, and they're important if you're in a council that only mulches the garden waste, for example. I didn't know any of this stuff until I came across that article. Let me know in the comments if you've ever spotted a house plant that doesn't belong there growing where it shouldn't, or if you have tips for disposing of green waste in your area. And if you found this helpful, please like and share it. Most people have no idea how easily a house plant can become a weed.